All right, let's talk about the story of Mark Zuckerberg. This isn't just about a tech giant. It's a real odyssey that starts with a kid, a computer, and a whole lot of passion. We're going to dig into how that initial spark for just building things turned into something that connected and, yeah, complicated the entire world.
So let's start with a really simple question. Seriously, forget the billions of dollars and the massive company for a second. Just think, what can a 12-year-old kid actually build for his dad? Because the answer to that is where this whole crazy story really kicks off.
So, where does a story like this even begin? Well, it's not in some sleek Silicon Valley office. Nope. It starts in a dimly lit room late at night. And our main character isn't a CEO. He's just a kid who was completely obsessed with one thing.
Just picture it. An 11-year-old Mark Zuckerberg, totally zoned in on his computer. The only light in the room is just the glow of green code on the screen. While all the other kids his age were asleep, he was up and he was building.
And this is what he built. It was called ZuckNet. See, his dad was a dentist, and he had this really simple problem. He needed his home office to be able to talk to the main clinic. So at just 12 years old, Mark built him a private instant messaging network. It wasn't about changing the world. It was about solving a real problem for his family. And it was a huge clue about what was to come.
And you know, when his dad was blown away by this, Mark's reply was just so simple. He said, "Code is my toy." I mean, that one line tells you everything you need to know, right? For him, this wasn't homework. It wasn't a chore. It was play. It was pure passion.
And yeah, that childhood project, it was just the start. That passion didn't just fade away. It got bigger and way more ambitious. It really started laying the tracks for a vision that would, eventually, change how pretty much all of us connect with each other.
Okay, so fast forward a few years. As a teenager, he creates this thing called the Synapse Media Player. Now think about your Spotify or Apple Music today, how it just knows what you want to listen to. Well, this was basically an early version of that, an intelligent program that could literally learn your taste in music and then build playlists for you. This was completely ahead of its time.
And people were definitely starting to notice. There was this one line in a magazine back then that just nailed it. It said, "While kids today play with computers, Mark builds them." And that's the key difference, right? He wasn't just using the tech, he was creating it from the ground up.
And when you lay it all out like this, you can really see this incredible rapid climb. At 12, he's solving a family problem. By 15, he's building AI to predict what music you'll like. And then just 4 years later, at 19, he launches the platform that would define everything. Each step was a massive leap in both scale and ambition.
So with this Synapse Media Player, he was getting these insane offers. Big companies wanted to buy the software, they wanted to hire him. I mean, this is a huge decision for a teenager. He could have taken path A, cash out, get a great job, be set. But he chose path B. He said no to all of it, basically betting on himself and this gut feeling that all this was just a warm-up for something way, way bigger.
And that bet, well, it takes us to probably the most famous setting in this whole story, a small, pretty messy dorm room at Harvard University. This is where that bigger, unknown idea finally starts to become real.
What's so smart about this is how they started. It wasn't, let's connect the whole world right away. No, it was super focused. They identified one specific need for one specific group, Harvard students. They launched it small, proved it worked, and built a solid base. But, and this is so important, expansion was always part of the plan.
This really shows you the mindset from day one. When a friend asked if the Facebook was just for their college, his answer was instant. For now, but soon we will expand it to other colleges. You can just hear the confidence. This was never going to be a small-time project. The vision was built to scale from the very beginning.
But, going from a dorm room project to a global empire, that's where things get complicated, really complicated. The same incredible drive that helped him build everything was about to slam into massive issues of privacy, data, and social responsibility. The controversy was just getting started. And man, did that empire grow. A big part of the strategy wasn't just building, but buying. The company, which we now know as Meta, started buying up its biggest potential rivals, like Instagram and WhatsApp. This move basically cemented its control over how billions of people talk to each other, which brought in a ton of power, but also a ton of scrutiny.
And with that kind of scale, the controversy just exploded. Suddenly, the headlines weren't about cool new features. They were about things like Senate inquiries.
Then it was all about data privacy.
with governments all over the world demanding to know what was happening with their citizens' information.
And of course, there were the endless legal battles. These weren't just distractions. They were huge challenges to the very foundation of the empire he had built.
So how did Zuckerberg himself see all this chaos? Well, according to him, he saw it as a matter of focus. He said, "I was distracted, but I never stopped, because I had the hope of victory in my eyes." To him, all the public backlash and legal fights were just obstacles he had to get past to keep building toward his goal.
So, when you look at the whole picture, the dorm room, the global success, the massive controversies, what's the real takeaway here? It's definitely a story about perseverance. But it also makes you ask a really important question. When does one person's passion project become a massive global responsibility?
I mean, just to put a number on the end result of this whole journey, we're talking about a net worth of around $170 billion. It's a staggering figure that shows you the sheer size of the empire that was built from those first few lines of code.
Now, the source material we're looking at today frames this entire story as a powerful lesson in passion. The argument is that this deep, almost obsessive drive is what gave him the ability to push through every single challenge, from the technical stuff to the huge public outcries.
So, the idea here, the central theme, isn't really about business or tech. It's about having that builder's mentality. It suggests that a true passion for the act of creating something can be the ultimate superpower to get you through any obstacle, no matter how big it is.
And we'll end with this thought. The story is an incredible example of what one person's drive can build, but it also forces us to ask a really important question for our time. When you build something that actually changes the world, who's ultimately responsible for the consequences?